in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
All right. Let me see here. Others. We have our parliamentarian here, Dina Tollerton. I don't know if you want to say hello.
Hello, everyone.
And Mr. Chair, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe ask members to do so as well?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. My name is John Hatch. I'm the Hays County Democratic Party chairman here in beautiful Buda, Texas, just south of Austin. And want to thank y'all all for giving up a little bit of your, Wednesday night to help us get through this, and looking forward to a great convention. So if you would kind of, we see, I'll let you just, Myra, you wanna, I'll just call it out since I'll go down the row here. Myra, you wanna introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, John. My name is Myra Mills Shearhart, and I am up here in Tarrant County in Fort Worth, and serving as the secretary today, I believe, and I can pass it over to Sharon.
All right.
Hey, everybody, Sharon Hirsch, Senate District 12 committee member, and I'm in Dallas County. Great to see everybody.
All right. Nicolette?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Nicolette Ardiente, pronouns are she, her, sha. I am the SD19 committee member based out of San Antonio.
All right. We've already heard from, Drew, you want to say hello?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm the digital director here at TDP. I guess I can turn my camera on and say hi. Just running the live stream and happy to be a part.
All right. Thank you much. Mary, you kind of jumped out in there.
Yeah. I'm Mary Ham, and I am CD Congressional District 2's SD4, Montgomery County. Hey, Clayton, I'm so sorry for your baby.
Yeah. All right. Sheena King.
Hey everybody, it's Sheena King. I was trying to find my camera, can't find it here. I am from Collin County and happy to be here.
All right. Seems like we got the Metroplex covered pretty well. Let's see, Rosemarie De Hoyos.
Hi, I'm Rosemarie De Hoyos. I'm from Bexar County, Democratic Party. Work as a primary manager and a previous SDC member. Happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. Brenda, awesome county liaison, whatever that title was that came out today. Oh, Marco, you're muted.
County. Oh, there we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Brenda. I'm the County Services Director and Primary Election Administrator here in the Austin with Marco and Emma.
All right. Thanks. Michael Apodaca, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Michael Apodaca, the county chair of the El Paso County Democratic Party. So super excited to see all of you here in my hometown in a couple of weeks.
That's awesome. Awesome. And I hear you're going to be giving out $100 bills to all the people who come.
100%.
Probably not, but you're definitely getting convention back.
All right.
That actually have been paid for already, so they are a real thing.
All right.
Not like 2 weeks ago where I was like, "Holy crap, where am I going to get this money from for all these bags?" So they have officially been paid for.
Excellent. Logan.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah. Logan Workman out in Travis County on Texas Stonewall.
Excellent. Thanks for hanging out here with me, representing Central Texas, us in San Antonio. I think we've got we know Deanna. Go ahead and say hello again, parliamentarian guru.
Hi, I'm Dina Tollerton. I'm one of the parliamentarians for the state party, and I'm in Williamson County, but in C37.
All right. Clayton Tucker.
Howdy, y'all. Clayton Tucker. I am based in Lampasas. county chair out here. I'm also SDEC currently for the Texas Hill Country, but going to be shifting over to CD11. And president of the Progressive Caucus. And thanks, Mary. For reference, my baby is, I talked about I lost a baby goat. It was a battle baby, so it was sad. But not to get off on a sad foot, because the convention's going to be great.
Well, absolutely. Well, sorry about that, Clayton. I understand that world. All right. Nope, we have a new one coming in. Is it Nabila Mansour? Probably give her a chance to log in. Nabila, we're doing introductions.
Yes.
You wanna introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry I'm late. I didn't know I had to register and then it sent me stuff. So apologies. Hi, everyone. My name is Nabila Mansour. I am the president of the Asian American Democrats of Texas and very happy to join y'all.
Awesome. Okay. I think, oh, no, Sharon Hirsch, you just jumped in again.
No, I'm good. I already did
yeah,
my
you're right.
introduction.
You did. Now I see you now. Okay. I think that's everybody. Marco, if you want to
Yeah.
take it away and put us
Sure.
on.
Yeah. There's going to be probably a couple other people.
Myself too, Marco. I haven't even.
Well, hold on. We got Emma. We got the.
You spoke earlier already, Emma.
I popped by, but I was running by, but I just need to make sure everybody. Missed a couple of people, but I wanted to be like, hey, I haven't seen everybody in a while. So my name is Emma Pickering, the convention director for the TDP, and I'm excited to be working with Michael to get a couple thousand folks out to El Paso. Sorry, Marco, for interrupting you. Now it's yours. Now it's yours.
No worries. I'm just giving you a hard time, Emma, and sorry for giving you such a hard time today. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to do a screen share. I think myself, the chair, and Dina met a little bit earlier. We have our political director, Ryan Garcia, coming in. I met a little bit earlier and kind of hashed out a quick agenda. So let me go ahead and just put that on the screen, if you bear with me to find the right one. No way. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. I'm so sorry. Give me a second. There it is. Hey, Ryan, while I'm about to set up screen share, you want to say hello?
Hello, esteemed temporary credentials committee members. Happy to be here with you.
All right. There we go.
Okay. Hopefully y'all can see that screen share. Let me increase the size a little bit.
Your rain noises earlier, actually, too.
Oh, yeah. I always listen to white. Oh, no, they can't see that.
Oh.
Emma was referencing to concentrate. I can't handle a lot of sounds or whatever, so I just have white noise or brown noise or pink noise playing all the time with rain. Okay. Let me. It's probably a little bit better. Okay. Before I actually get to the agenda, want to show you where navigate through the convention website just a tiny bit. I'm sure a lot of you know where to file for convention position and see who's filed. I think something that's interesting of note, is to see who's filed for permanent credentials. Deadline was midnight last night. I know that some of y'all were getting emails from me late in the morning, so did pull a little bit of an all-nighter. But while that's loading, we can. I want to show you the convention schedule, pre-schedule. Okay, sorry, minors, that's a little slow, so I'll just go ahead and move to this. History of the Credentials Committee in for the Texas Democratic Convention. Usually was pretty limited. I think Dina's going to go over the traditional role credentials, but during our state conventions and also our county conventions, the credentials basically deal with check-in, maintenance of the temporary and permanent roles, and also any challenges to any sort of delegate credentials. So that's sort of generally what it's been used for. So kind of a little bit limited, not too much work. We have called on them maybe to do some petition verification in the past. But yeah, it was essentially limited to challenges and, approval of, the initial temporary role and then the permanent roles and permanent role updates. Check-in at the state convention actually, for the last couple of cycles has not been handled by the Credentials Committee. It had been handled by the SDC member for that Senate district and whoever was helping them out or whoever we could identify. I think that it's moving back to Credentials this time, however. Dina, can you go over sort of the traditional role of Credentials and that link you said, what does Robert say?
Yeah, it's I'm not able to share. You got it. Perfect. You can open it for me. That would be great. So Roberts is looking at a general convention, and so it has the first 4 duties: distribution of the information. This is, it says later when you have a full-time staff that a lot of these things are done by the staff, but if you had just a volunteer organization, Credentials would be in charge of distributing all the information to sign up. That's number 1, and creating the forms for that. And number 2, they'd be looking back through those forms as they're submitted. And then compiling the list. All this is all stuff that Marco's been doing. Arrangements for registration to take place at the convention. And then number 5 is registration. So how they sign up and those things. And 6 is preparing the report. And that won't be very difficult for y'all, but because we have everything digitized in that list. Continuation of the committee to record changes in the roles as it's needed, people who come, people who leave. And then submission of any supplemental reports when things get changed. So as it says in 5915, in societies that maintain a permanent administrative headquarters, most of those duties are done by the staff. I just want to give you guys, the reason I took all this out is so that you've got the link in the agenda. You guys can see what are those traditional duties. So the registration, you guys get to decide some of the things about the time and place of registration. A lot of that's already decided because just the nature of the event, and it's set in the rules already. And the method is pretty well set. I don't know how much we're going to need decided. I think it's pretty well set, but we will talk about that. And so, it gives you the options. Here's the ways you could do this during the initial period, how you do these things. I love how they're like, usually 2 committee members are assigned. This is anticipating a much smaller convention than we have. And the duplicate registers, these are just things, advice, information. But then we get into 5921, cases of contested seats will seldom arise except in political conventions. Even then, I think ours have been fairly rare. It's been a while since we've had a bunch of contested seats and delegations, especially this year because there's only a few delegations that have filled up. So it really is going to be for cause. Marco, do you want me to go read through 5921 or just let people read it on their own?
Yeah, I think it's fine to skip because our report's very simple because it'll be posted online. So it's just basically we're updating what's online. You cool with that? Cool. I think it's just more of almost a formality, right? Am I lying about that?
Yes, that is correct. That's my understanding of it, my experience with it. Just like attach the list. Well, here's the list. List's online. You can view it. And it goes into details about the report and supplementary reports. I just wanted you guys to have a copy of this information so that you knew what Roberts expects out of a credentials committee. And we've been kind of lax with the check-in and So therefore, it got difficult to get that information back to credentials because they weren't handling it from the very beginning. So that was part of there's a space issue, but also the discussion of perhaps credentials needs to have their hands on those lists all the time, because we had lists walking off with SDEC members and you never knew who fully had checked in. So that's one of the reasons that we went back to having credentials handling this stuff. What Roberts doesn't discuss and what we have in our rules that's added is that credentials handles verifying petitions because they have the role to confirm the names. And then the existing proxy process that's called for in the election code that we have, not the new part of the proxy process, the two parts about assigning if you're a delegation, if you're the last one in your delegation to leave, or if you're last one in your county to leave. Those need to be reported to the credentials committee. And then we have not, it's been a long time since we have kept track of checkouts. I know they have in the past, but most people just kind of skipped over it and left. And so they kind of stopped tracking it, but it's mentioned in here that, I think it is, number 7, departure of delegates and the re-registration of alternates to replace them. Since we went away from the alternate process, we haven't really kept track of people who are leaving because we have the full delegation strength vote. So that's where we're at. Was there anything else you wanted me to cover, Marco? Or John?
Okay, so designee.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions, or should I continue with the next bullet? Okay. So how we're running creds now, I think we've already kind of touched on it a little bit, and we'll get into it in the duties of the permanent credentials down here. But essentially, it's a lot more thorough than it has been in the past. I think for both feedback for improvements from the last in-person convention that we had and prior in-person conventions, as well as the uniqueness of the space. We're gonna have to run this a little bit, or the committee is gonna be a lot more involved. And the idea of the permanent credentials committee is to be a lot more of the worker bees of the party business aspects that usually were assigned to staff and some volunteers. It's to get a little bit more buy-in and also to increase capacity. And that way, volunteers can be used for more of the non-party business stuff. So, wayfinding, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to get too much into the into the volunteer stuff that won't be covered. But yeah, doing a little bit differently, trying to involve people more in the administration of all the party affairs process, through use of the through use of the permanent credentials committee. So temp credentials, I think the number one thing, or the first bullet is to help, get a good gut check on preparing for permanent credentials, setting up right processes that we don't already have set up, and knowing that we're doing some adjusting, based on the new expanded duties of the committee, as well as the uniqueness of the space. And then sort of your bare bones basic stuff that we're actually going to be looking at a little bit tonight. Heads up, I think since this is public and there's going to be some private some PII, some like information like dates of birth and emails, phone numbers, addresses. We're going to have to go into executive session to discuss some of that, but then we're going to have to come out and take actual votes to approve. So that's why we're going to go off the live stream for a temporary time at the very end of the meeting to get those approvals. They should be pretty simple and straightforward. So yeah, so that's basically the role of temp credentials. Now I know that a decent amount of you, well, these are the links I was trying to open up earlier. So permanent committees, the deadline to file was 11:59 last night. So the people that are going to be on the credentials committee, so for instance, here in Congressional District 1, 3 people filed, so we don't know who the winner of that is. But if you look at, Congressional District 6, Martin Signs is the only person that signed up. So, by default, he will be on the permanent committee, and we're not even going to put that on the ballot. Dina, I don't know if we're going to say who was automatically elected, but we'll do something. But essentially,
it's going to say that when they go to that page.
And then 14. There's no one that filed for CD 14. The deadline was yesterday. That position is just going to remain vacant. So I think the max amount of members, unless one of our officers ran, was 41. So we know that in particular with 14, that's going to bring it down to max amount of members that's possible to 40. So yeah, there's a couple other, whatever number you see missing. So like 26, we didn't have someone file in time. And, I think someone said they were going to file for a certain number and they fell asleep because they were on too many allergy meds. So yeah, so a couple of these spots are going to be vacant. If you go to our pre-convention schedule, this says all of the things that are going on. The things that we've already passed, and this is available on the website under schedule, the pre-schedule, which is essentially everything from now through June 5th. All the stuff that's going to be done virtually or electronically. So the pre-caucuses are about to end, ending on Saturday, and then the filing deadline was last night, and this is the first temporary committee that's meeting. We don't have another one scheduled, but I'm assuming it'll probably be a good idea to schedule another one. So I can talk with offline with the officers to get another one scheduled. That I think we'll probably only need one more, I'm thinking. But I could be wrong. And that's when we'll do, if there's any more challenges or approval, role approvals, or if I do something that you guys don't like, you can disagree with it and that won't get approved. But I think we need one more meeting, and we'll figure out timing for that. And then essentially it's handing off to the permanent committee, which, will probably start, mid-June. And a lot of that will also be onboarding them and prepping them for, the stuff that they're going to have to, the task that they're going to have to do at the El Paso convention.
I think you meant mid-May, not mid-June.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm horrible with mixing up months. I did mean in May. Excuse me. So I don't think this is necessarily all encompassing, but it's pretty close about the duties of the permanent credentials committee. I think we're going to have 8 check-in tables. So already looked at the list a week or two back and kind of made some decisions, like one table is going to be A to C or A to B. And then, the next one may have 6 or 7 letters. So we're going to have to assign people from the committee to be at check-in. An important thing, this is for everything, is schedule people out. For instance, if I know that I already know the person who filed from my congressional district, CD 35, their flight doesn't get there till Thursday at about 3 p.m. So can't schedule him for any check-in on Thursday, probably period, because by the time he gets to his hotel and everything, it's probably 5 or 6, and check-ins are already closed by that time because there's the kickoff event. So we're gonna have to be smart and work with everyone's schedules. And sometimes we only need 1 or 2 people rotating out for certain things, and other times we need nearly the entire committee. So we're gonna have to work on that. But I think we'll I'm gonna work on a memo and have Dina look through it and, work with the convention director and have probably the officers look through to sort of prep all the things that Permanent's going to need. And we can discuss that at our next meeting and, take feedback and do some adjusting. Role maintenance, I think will be done unless, Wi-Fi explodes, will be done, all electronically. We'll figure out, worst case scenario backup if, for some reason we don't have internet. A lot of that won't be too much of an issue, because, we could always do something, we can have a local copy on a computer and, either post something or print something somewhere, or, sometimes it's appropriate to just even say numbers. Dina, do you want to talk a little bit about that if I could tag you in?
I'm sorry, about which?
I think role maintenance and sort of like how that process works.
Well, so we'll have the check-in. People will be checked in online, or rather, you'll have the spreadsheet, and you'll check people in, so that'll automatically sync up. Then, as we still have to work out exactly how this is going to be laid out. That's something that we need y'all's input on. We have the ability for people to check out so that it reduces our quorum numbers, which can be useful. As a result, we need to have a process for marking checkouts. I think it's simple as having a column mark that they're checked out. Y'all may want to have them sign something saying that they want to check out. They have to hand in their credentials, I guess, maybe, or not. People like to keep those. I don't know how we want to do that, but that's going to be something that the committee needs to have input on and decide, really.
Yeah. So we'll
Guys,
work
that's
on that a
something
little bit. Oh, John, you want to
That's
say
something
something?
we'll have to decide tonight, or is that something we can decide down the road?
Down the road.
Got it. Okay.
Also, Nita, I think in this memo that I'm gonna tackle this weekend, hopefully, is when meetings should be. I'll talk about petitions a little bit more, but I think we already have some stuff in process laid out about when petitions are, they need to be turned in. There's different types of petitions, so I'll need to kind of walk you through the nuances of that. And so I think there's probably a special team that's probably only focused on petitions. We can increase, if needed, our capacity for this work by appointing some temporary and getting them approved as permanent convention officers specifically assigned to help this committee if for some reason 40 isn't big enough. But yeah, there's ways to essentially add capacity to just the members here. No, this is mine. I'm 100% sure. Sorry, Emma's trying to steal one of my chargers. Let's see here. We talked a little bit about checkout. Proxy facilitation. After actually having a good meeting with staff and Dina and especially Emma today, I think is going to be less of a lift on this committee than I thought it was. There's 3 types of proxies. Let me even just write that in the notes. 3 types. The first 2 are things that I think this committee is going to need to figure out how to track. But they're a little bit more rare and a little bit more straightforward. And also ones specifically both of them happen only at specific times. So there's one, and I already have one of these proxies that has been emailed to me, is I know that no one from my county is going to attend the state convention. So I can assign all of my voting strength, both in the CD caucus and in the convention floor, to a specific person to vote the full voting strength of my county. Because I think probably 90% of the elections that are held, well, I take that back. The majority of elections that are held at the convention are not one person, one vote. They're by delegate strength. In other words, like, let's say you're the only person that show up from your county and your county's assigned 10 votes, then your one vote counts for 10 within that election. So that's the first time. There's a delegation from a county that's completely missing. They can assign a proxy. The second kind is also kind of straightforward, and and all of those have to be received by a certain time, by the way, ahead of the convention. So basically, we just need those on file, and need to have that marked, and then it's on that person who has the proxy to go and participate in those elections, because they have that voting ability now, for for that delegation. The second type of proxy is people who, this happens a lot, tends to happen a lot with Hidalgo, Cameron, and El Paso. And of course, it won't be El Paso this time, but a lot of them will charter a bus. And so you literally have the entire delegation on a bus, but they have to leave that afternoon. Or this happens a lot with smaller counties that they just have one delegate from that county, or two or three, and they're leaving at 11 on Saturday. They're leaving at 2 on Saturday. Once the last person from a delegation is leaving, they can assign an individual a proxy to gain the entire voting strength of that county. So that's another one that we'll have to track. That's, I think, pretty easy and straightforward. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to approve someone's registration. Give me a second. I can't do two things at once. Oh, your registration. Sorry, there you go, Emma. I think Emma's going to join us remotely in a second. So the last type of proxy that I think we don't necessarily need to keep a track of, but we need to figure out a way to certify and make them official. And we'll, I'm not sure, our chair hasn't talked about it, but his day job is actually running a petition firm. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, Mr. Chair, but so he wants to have some input on what the design looks like. Yeah, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, just basically, for the last 20 some odd years, I've had a company called Texas Petition Strategies, and we do primarily local option alcohol elections, which by state law, it has to be a paper petition. And we collect signatures to put so that you can vote on whether or not to sell alcohol. And so I was just saying to Marco earlier that when we create the petition, if somebody's going to have to petition for, to pull a resolution off consent or whatever, I'm just saying we ought to go ahead and have those forms pre-designed and whatnot, because the truth of the matter is you design the forms for our benefit, because we want to be able to verify those signatures as quickly and as efficiently as possible. We certainly don't want any of those things on a bar napkin. So this way it will kind of help us be a little more efficient in our job. And I was just saying I can help, guide us in when we get ready to design that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Challenges, either challenges to someone being a delegate or challenges to someone running for an election. That will come. In fact, we already have one that we'll deal with at the end of the meeting. Both with challenges and with petitions, there are certain ones that they have to be turned in by a certain time, either because it's already in the rules or it's already in the process, or it's something that we can state and announce. But there may be some challenges or petitions that, because of the nature of that specific type, we can't necessarily set a deadline. So in other words, we can plan to have a, quick credentials meeting at this time and this time, and we'll probably get all the work done. But, there could be a scenario where we can pre-plan to maybe meet at 1, just, or this is just an example. We can pre-plan to meet at 1 p.m. on Saturday, just in case there's some sort of petition that needs to be verified, or, or we can, maybe it doesn't have to be through a meeting. Maybe it's like just verifying the petition. So yeah, we'll plan that out. But there's some things we can plan for by setting deadlines, and there's some things that we can plan for the sort of just in cases. So one thing that's sort of assigned that is not traditional to a credentials committee because it just makes a whole lot of sense because, you know, the way this is operating, or at least that's what I thought, is to assist the caucuses that are needing to input their votes into spreadsheets with formulas. Obviously, we're going to give those people training, but you know, it's a lot, and you know, don't expect everyone to sort of get everything. You know, people will need help, and people make mistakes. So, yeah, so we're going to have to be the people that are helping people out with that, and then also our recounts. That's something I think that was a sort of a flaw of this last convention. Is people was like, I want to recount or whatever, and like, you know, I think staff and the volunteers that were helping out with that kind of stuff were sort of at capacity, and you know, may have not been able to facilitate some of those questions or requests. Maybe there wasn't policy in place. Also, you know, there's some instances where because of some sort of error, formula broke or something. So, you know, this vote total was a little bit off. So I think sort of either through user error or through, you know, a bug in Google Sheets or whatever. So I think having members help out with that sort of stuff, or having the committee help out with that sort of stuff, will be helpful. Thanks for adding this custodians of the ballots. You want to talk about that, Dina?
Sure. It was something when I was going through a double checking about the petition process for the removing something from the consent calendar, I noticed that in the committee duties, we had them be the custodian of the ballots, because last time it was just Marco, me, and Emma who held onto the ballot, and made us kind of uncomfortable that we didn't have official ability to hold onto those ballots. So this is officially, you guys are the custodians of the ballot. So that's where the recount part comes in, because you're the custodian of the ballots. If somebody comes in and says, hey, we want to recount, because you're the custodians, or the permanent committee is, you guys are the ones who will say, okay, we'll allow that. And that way it's not just, you know, somebody yelling at me in the back room, because that's not fun.
Yeah, and y'all aren't the ones that'll run the elections or do the
Oh yeah,
counting
no,
of the
there's
ballots.
tellers that are assigned out of each of those CDs and each of those presidential preference groups. That part you guys don't have to do with. Those people are assigned.
But it, you know, those people sometimes won't know what to do, or they'll make mistakes, or they want help. So I think that's where you know, y'all would step in.
Yeah. And if for some reason, like, let's say internet goes down, we're going to have computers that have the Excel spreadsheets. We're using Excel this time to avoid the Google Sheets bugs that we ran into the last 2 times. Those will be downloaded on computers. So if, God forbid, the internet goes down during all this process, there'll be people who can help hand key into those computers that have the files on them and do the results. And then when we can get Wi-Fi again, then those results will be made public.
Yeah, and then I'm sure maybe there's some sort of duty that we're missing. I don't want to get into the nuances of all the petitions, because to be honest, I can't remember off the top of my head, and kind of want to research and write up that memo I've been talking about. But you know, the last 2 things is just being mindful of, you know, people's schedules, you know, where they need to be. That'll be important. And then also wanting to figure out when are some meetings that we want to have sort of a standing, or that we want to, you know, have a sort of or that, you know, ones that we can cancel if there's not a need to meet. But usually that'll be like if, you know, something that's not irregular. So, you know, maybe some sort of challenge that needs to get dealt with, or, you know, some sort of issue with the petition or sort of stuff. That's a lot. I know there weren't a whole lot of questions asked, but before we move to actual, like, some going to executive session so we can show that sort of private information of delegates that we're going to either add or being challenged, blah, 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 blah. Do y'all have any general questions for myself or Dina or the officers or anything?
I do. I got 2 out of the 3 proxies. I think I understood. It was the third one where we switched to petitions that I'm not exactly sure I understand how a petition and a proxy equate to each other.
Yeah, let me pull up the rules because it's pretty straightforward about proxies. Okay, so it's going to be under proxies for the state convention. Yeah, if you just literally read this, it will tell you what the proxies are. In fact, I'll just go ahead and oh, it's bigger over here. Oops, it's not there. All right, absent county delegation. So proxies do not deal with any sort of petitions. Yeah, so they're 2 separate things. I know since they both start with P, I might have misspoke at some point.
Okay.
But absent county delegation.
Mhm.
So this is done ahead of time. So essentially, I should get emailed all of these, either, you know, a photo, a text, in an email, in a Word doc, a PDF, whatever. I should receive all of this before the convention is called to order. And call to order is Thursday at 3-ish, maybe. It depends on how long the SDC meeting lasts, because immediately after the SDC meeting is adjourned, then it's convention call to order. So, no, Thursday, 3-ish, 3:30-ish, all of that stuff needs to be received by myself or, you know, an appropriate convention officer. So we just need to track that. And then those people that hold the proxies, it's on them with however they're using their proxy appropriately. Because there's some, you know, there's
They
some
hold
votes
that,
that you
they
wouldn't
hold
use.
that proxy for the whole time too. Like if they're holding that proxy, they hold it for the entire convention.
Correct. But there's only certain votes that they would be able to utilize it in. If I'm not mistaken,
Inside,
like,
yeah, inside the CD votes. So not in caucuses.
yeah, so not in the issue. So yeah, they can't go and utilize it in Black Caucus and have, like, you know, 100 votes or 10 votes to themselves.
But
It's just for
they could use
CD.
it in the CD caucus and on the floor.
And then the second one is the last remaining delegate in a county can assign the full county's that county's CD sliver, obviously. So let's say it's, you know, everyone from Dallas CD5 has left, then Dallas CD5, that one sliver, could assign their entire voting strength to someone. So it's either the county or, yeah, so that's why it says county delegation, because county delegation can be just from a sliver of a CD.
And the third one is the one we glossed over. We didn't talk about.
Cool. So let me, this one, to be honest, I think we put in the rules. You know, I think it came to mind from a very selfish reason for myself and Dina, is because we're at the front of the convention, we're running around, but, you know, we're real people too. So we want to be able to vote in our elections. So we're kind of doing this very
It was
informal.
kind of on the sly in the past.
Yeah, so I think when we thought about it, there were also issues during the last convention of committees that actually aren't going to meet necessarily at convention, but they would adjourn because everyone wanted to go vote on the floor for something, and then they would say we're going to restart at a certain time, but they didn't start back. So essentially, we wanted to create a space for them. If you have some sort of business, you have a convention committee, you're staffing someone, you're doing a volunteer job, You
You
you're not
have,
with your
I
delegation.
had this happen in 2014. I had my 6-week-old baby. I had to go nurse her in the other room and I missed a vote.
So this is a more like one-for-one proxy, like one person for one person. The others are based on like delegation strength when nothing exists.
Sort of.
Oh,
It's your vote inside that CD as well.
Okay.
So inside the caucuses, it's one person, one vote. But in the CDs, so like, for example, my group, we've got, I think, 15 people going, but we have 43 votes. So yeah, my one vote is my one vote inside there, but it's proportional.
Okay.
It still counts as my vote inside that county delegation.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Which is why we're going to have to discuss with all of these, how are people going to know what votes that people hold for proxies? In the past, so 1 and 2 we've used before. And what we've done is the CD or SD delegation chair, they've written it down and kept track of it. And so then when the time comes, okay, what's your vote for you and what's your vote for them? And then they write down those numbers. But so as a group, we need to get input on, do we do little cards? Is it just written down on the sheet? Is it filed somewhere? How is that kept track of?
Yeah, and also my thinking is also probably for each type of proxy, you probably need to do a separate form, because then it can get really confusing. And also, like, how about labor's going on at the same time as veterans? I don't think there's any voting in veterans but let's just say that there is some sort of business vote. But I can't be at either. Probably want to have a proxy form for only one caucus. So someone who's not going to be in certain places at a certain time, I think it's going to be one per type of caucus. So one for like CD and the floor, and then you're going to have to sign a separate one if, it's for Hispanic, Black, the places where there's actually votes that impact DNC member recommendation or SDC member votes.
I want to be clear. So number 3 is intended for somebody who is still present somewhere in the building. Or roughly. I mean, it's not somebody, if you're leaving and you're leaving for good, they should be checking out. And then their vote becomes part of their CD's delegation strength. These are instances where somebody has to go in the other room and isn't able to be present on the floor.
So in other words, you have to come to El Paso, check in, and then you would be able to utilize this third type of proxy.
Yes. And although we don't have any way of proving that somebody has left, if in theory, if someone had left, this shouldn't count. This is a temporary proxy when you are just not there for a few minutes or not there for a portion of the time. In theory, I don't know that there's any way to enforce that, but that's the idea. When we
Mike,
get to
you had a question? Oh, unmute. So you're unmuted, but I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me there?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So just to make sure, and you might have said this and I just maybe missed it. This is only for like in like the general session part, or is this like, for example, like let's say, I don't think this is in the schedule, but I'm sure the Hispanic caucus and the Stonewall caucus aren't happening at the same time. So I'm in the Hispanic caucus trying to do a vote, but the Stonewall caucus is having a vote approximately at the same time. So I cannot use a proxy like this, right? It's not between caucuses, it's just for like in the general session.
You can use it for that.
Yeah. So that's incorrect. Yes. So you can. So, I mean, I think that's what's going to happen personally with me is there might be 3 caucuses occurring at the same time. I cannot attend any of the 3, but I'm an eligible member, and maybe there's some sort of impactful either SDC or DNC member election. I'm there in El Paso, but I cannot go to those things. I can give a proxy to someone. Logan?
Yeah, I guess following in that line of the question, so is that also the case? How are those proxies going to be determined or like maintained just off the delegate roster? Like someone checks in, you get a card for each caucus you're a part of. That's your proxy card. You give the proxy card away.
I don't think we've necessarily outlined the process. I mean, the idea I think is to make them available and explain the process to people at different points during check-in, and make them available in different places in the convention, but also have some sort of, certification. So maybe they have to be signed by someone. But yeah, I don't think that process is necessarily laid out yet. I think one thing that's important, I was envisioning maybe that, this committee would need to have some sort of master roster of all the proxies that are going on. And that seems like almost impossible to maintain. But Dina had talked about why we don't need to do that a little bit. If I could tag you in.
Well, that if you've got the paper copy of the proxy, the way we have this written, I mean, you are going to your, I'm looking at the language real fast. I mean, we say it should be in writing and filed with the chair, delegation chair of the congressional district. But when it comes to these, the caucus votes, the interest caucus votes, it's possible that we could set up a system where if they're voting by proxy, they have to turn that vote in. Because any of those votes, like the DNC votes and things like that, those are going to have to be on paper if they're doing them in person.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you're voting somebody's proxy, you need to turn that paper copy of their proxy in along with the ballot that you're casting for them.
That makes sense. Okay, perfect. That was exactly my question.
Yeah, that was my thoughts on it. And because again, these are trying to be temporary. They're not meant to be for the entire convention. So
yeah,
if you're doing a qualified proxy or a non-qualified proxy, we need to know that information.
Yeah, I don't know if we touched on that. Unqualified is basically, Brenda has my proxy to vote for me at the Hispanic caucus. Qualified proxy is Brenda, vote for Cesar for DNC, Selena for DNC, and, SDC, this person and this person. So that's a qualified proxy. So they don't even, that person doesn't have a choice. They have to vote that way. So that'll be also needed to be on the form. One other thing of note that when Logan was asking the question earlier, it's not decided yet. The caucuses that have actual business, SEC member elections and DNC member recommendations, a lot of those, it has not been solidified if they're going to be electronic votes prior to the convention or in person at the convention utilizing a system that is already approved within the rules. But
they will have to provide a count if they don't do a paper ballot.
Yeah.
Because that's part of that information. They have to provide a count. Who was the top? Who was the next? So unless they write down a show of hands, that's going to be real complicated.
Yeah. So I think paper ballots are going to be very, I think, important for in-person votes. Now, this proxy process does not apply to electronic votes prior to the convention. We're the TDP, myself and others on staff, Dina, I think will help facilitate if there needs to be electronic elections, which is an option for y'all to do. I think probably the recommended method is going to be meet electronically before, so you kind of have explain everything and let candidates speak, but then there's a period of time for election. And that's going to be the choice of the caucus leadership / the organization leadership on how they want to do that. If they want to do their vote in person during their meeting or electronically after some sort of pre-caucus meeting. I think after this vote that we have, or during the vote, I might even make some calls during the weekend. We have the permanent committees voting votes Saturday through Tuesday, the 27th through the 30th. Trying to get through that. But I might have some, time like on a Sunday or Monday to make some calls to, the leadership of Neuro, of Stonewall, of Hispanic, of Black, or to schedule some meetings so that way we can, of labor, et cetera, to schedule some meetings to figure out, these are your options. Which way do you want to do it? Do you want to do it electronically before, where this proxy process wouldn't happen, or after? Or at the convention where this proxy process would be in effect. Rosemarie.
Okay, I'm somewhat confused. In the past, I don't think we've ever used the proxy for the caucuses. If we didn't make it, we just missed it. Is that something different this year? I mean, you can now have someone proxy for you if you're not able to make all of the caucuses that you want to make. You're shaking your head, yes, Marco. So is that something new?
Yes, so there was a reform of the rules that the SDC approved in August in Fort Worth at that quarterly meeting. And there was a lot of reorganizing, reordering, reformatting of rules that already were there, or moving stuff that was procedural to a procedural rules document called the convention. And so there's a lot, that's already there. There's not, but there was also some reforms, and this was one of the reforms.
Okay. Second question then, if I have a proxy, and of course, Bexar County being so large, could I give it to another CD member, or do they have to be in? I'm in CD 20. Can I give it to someone from CD 23? My proxy.
I mean, the issue with that is that person would need to be
Well,
in
they're
the
caucuses. They're caucuses, so everybody's there in the caucuses. Like a
During the
Hispanic.
caucus, there's no limitation. Yeah, during the
There's no
caucus,
limitation, right.
it doesn't. In the way we have it written, they don't even have to be somebody that's a member of that caucus. They are effectively you for the purposes of that vote, but they wouldn't be casting one for themselves in addition.
Okay. Another question. Since I live in Bexar, CD 20 is all encompassed in Bexar. We usually don't have to worry about voting our strength in our caucus because it's vote for vote. Okay, right? Okay, great. You shook your head. That'll tell me yes. So you will be sending out this information of how we get our caucuses. I mean, how we get our what is it I'm looking for? Our proxies. Okay, you will send out that information, right?
Yes.
The thing is that you guys are the ones who are going to help decide how that looks.
Yeah, well, we usually vote one to one. I mean, on the floor we can vote our whole strength, but I mean, it since we're all in Bexar County, we don't have to worry about the other counties around us or whatever, split in our delegation. So we vote one to one.
Yeah, I mean,
right. Yeah, the percentage, it doesn't make a difference. It's the same
Right.
percentage,
Yeah.
whether it's that, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think this is super difficult as far as the math. I think something Dina said, just to highlight that I think is important, is essentially a proxy means that it's essentially you're just not there.
Right.
So that's the way I would think about it. It doesn't necessarily complicate the process. It's just when they vote, it's going to be, Rosemarie, but someone was proxying for them.
Right. Thank you.
And to clarify, that someone does not have to be a delegate to state convention.
Right.
The way this reads, it doesn't.
It does not say delegate. That is correct.
Cool. Thank you.
And in essence, is that I know we haven't determined process, but like, is the thought that that's a piece of paper that determines that, or?
My thought is that at least for the caucuses, that it needs to be a piece of paper. because they aren't going to have access to a list to verify things. With what you guys decide to do at the CD level it could be that, or it could be something different. But I think the easiest way for the caucuses, what I have in my mind, is there's going to be these rooms and people are going to be going, oh, I can't be in both. Let me fill out this form real fast and hand it to somebody who can be in there. Can you proxy for me? And that way that they will have that. And it's going to, like, I don't know. I don't even know how the rooms are going to be set up, but just in my mind, there's like, oh, there's some papers on a table, or somebody has like a list of them, or like not a list of them, a stack of them. And they can manage that. I mean, I'm not fixed to that, but that's just how it's kind of playing in my mind based on my experience. I've participated in a number of other groups that use proxies extensively. And for the ones that allow in-person, like on the moment proxies that some people call them, that's how they do it. And advanced proxies, so the Olympic committees are those different sports, their national Olympic committees use proxies extensively. And there's a couple of different ways that those have been done that we can talk about when we go into those details of how those are tracked for the advanced proxies.
Got it.
So that we can move on from proxies, I'm curious to know at what point, like, will this be kind of fleshed out a little bit more in that memo you mentioned earlier? And then we can revisit it if we have that second meeting.
Yeah, I would think that would be the idea of essentially draft up as much as possible, and, get Emma's eyes on it because, she's thinking about events, space, security, etc. And then, figure out, hopefully have a couple of things set, and then, get feedback, and then anything else that needs to be created gets created. I know there was some questions on petitions, but just because don't want to get into the nuances, I think we'll save that for later. I think when a little bit better prepared and probably have the memo outlining stuff. Are there any more questions? Mr. Chair, would you entertain, or if a member would entertain a motion to move into executive session? That way we can discuss some information that should be private of members, and then we'll have to come out to take votes on those issues.
All right, it's 7:36 p.m. I would entertain a motion that we adjourn into executive session. Do I have anybody willing to make that motion?
Move.
Logan Workman makes that motion to move. Is there a second?
Oh, second.
Second.
Michael Apodaca seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. We are now in executive session. to regular business. So Marco, do we have any other issues we need to address before we take a vote on the temporary list?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
We need to go back. Do we need to go back on live stream?
Oh, Drew,
Drew?
I'm sorry if you're asleep.
No,
Regular business.
we're back live.
All right. Okay, the Credentials Committee is back live at 8:38. So I will entertain the motion or to accept that the motion that we will accept the staff recommendation to make edits to the list, either to remove or add based on the intelligent information that they have received and or may receive between now and Friday at 5 o'clock. At which point that and in the meantime, everybody will be sent that the staff doesn't know a for sure conclusion, that they will be sent a confirmation email. If they do not reply to the confirmation email, then they can be removed. Does that encapsulate it fairly well?
I so move the motion that John just read.
All right.
On the motion.
All right, Sheena makes the motion, Logan seconds. Is there discussion? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Motion's passed. Okay. So what else do we need, Marco?
I think probably there's two other groups of motions. The one to make ineligible that one person for running in CD 15, but I will reach out, and if they, tell me that they're going to switch to CD 34, they can choose which committee, because at that point they'll get one of them. So really they can only choose one because they can only serve on one. And then the other group is, I'm guessing you could take it all in once, is the Cass County ads, the Cass County ad, the Harris 7 ad, and the Webb County 28 ad. Oh, and Mary's 2, is it Harris 2?
Harris 2. And no, I was noticing you were talking about somebody that filed to run in a committee in the wrong one. We've got somebody from Nueces County that's filed to run in 2. Nueces is nowhere near us.
Yeah. Well, I think my motion actually basically stated that you have the authority on information you've used to make whatever edits you think are necessary.
Okay.
So I think that means you can do whatever Michael recommended. You can do what Mary recommended. Basically, I think we already gave you that authority.
Okay. Then it's just the challenge.
Yeah, and the challenge is, well, all right, if we need a special motion on the challenge, remind me again that individual that he's
Abraham Sanchez filed in the wrong congressional district.
all right. So we have a motion. We'll entertain a motion that you will reach out to that person to see if he truly intends to want to serve on either one of those two committees, and he just made an error, and and if he agrees that that's what he intended, that you will make the appropriate change and put him in the appropriate district he should be running from.
Yeah, and Khalid Yusuf also in Nueces County.
Okay.
I move that Marco be granted the authority to make contact with any of the candidates who have a challenge that is presented to them based on the information that he has available to him.
All right. There's been a motion made. Is there a second?
I second.
Second.
Sharon seconds. Is there discussion? Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Marco, you got more work to do. Okay. Motion
All
passed.
right.
Anything else?
I mean, the only other question would be, I have two quick ones. Do you have like an ideal time? I know that you have some
Personal
constraints
time? Yeah.
in May. So if we want to pre-schedule some sort of meeting, as well as Myra, if you were taking any sort of notes. Obviously this is my first committee and done it a bunch of different ways, but just want to get some sort of document so we can post it publicly, the minutes, the unapproved minutes of the committee. So just a note for us to take that offline.
Do we have, does this time, if we were to schedule another meeting, what he's referring to is my son's getting married in Italy on June 1. And so I'll be gone the week prior to that. So if we are going to meet, I'd like to meet the week of the latest we could meet would be the week of the 20th through about the 22nd. Does this time frame work for everybody today? Pretty much. So do we want to say that we'll set up another meeting on Wednesday, the 22nd to go ahead, Marco, you got an issue with that?
So I don't think we want to meet that late because we still need to transition everything to the temporary committee, and we want to look at that memo. So let me see if there's a sweet spot on a Wednesday that's not scheduled yet. So definitely it's going to be in May. So May.
Well, 15th is a problem for me, but if we could do, I guess, how about this? Can we not send out one of those calendar? I just had one for Dr. Hook, Kristen Hook, that everybody filled in their availability and it just zeroed in on what was the most available, and look for the week of the 13th through the 17th. That would, is that early enough for, because May 6th, that's only in a couple of weeks, right? Are you gonna be ready?
Yeah.
For that?
I would just so all of the Wednesdays are already booked with something else as far as the committee. I would urge sooner rather than later, especially since we need to onboard the permanent.
Okay.
I think probably the sweet spot as far as looking at the schedule now would be Monday or Tuesday, May 14th or 15th.
13th or 14th.
Yeah.
13th or 14th. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Those days are all good for me.
Good for me.
I as well.
All right, y'all, do we want to just say the 14th of Tuesday, the 14th? Does that work? Okay. All right. Then yeah, do we need a motion for that or no? No. All right. We're just going to try to set up the next meeting for the 14th to onboard our permanent members and take up whatever issues we need to do. If anybody has any other announcements or comments, Michael, thank you for doing what you're doing. I know you got a lot going on out there, so we appreciate you. We're going to bring a party for you. Anybody have anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion for us to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, Sharon, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Logan. All right, there's motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, anybody else? You get to stay on the call. We are adjourned.
John.
Good night, everybody.
Thank
Thank you so much, members. Thank